Hey, I'm Mantos from Oxylabs, and today we're diving into one of the most powerful ways of collecting data from the internet, web scraping. Whether you're tracking competitor prices, researching your market, or building datasets for analysis, web scraping can save you countless of hours of manual work. In this video, we'll cover everything you need to know about web scraping, from how it works to real-world use cases to staying compliant. So, what exactly is web scraping? Web scraping is the automated process of extracting data from websites. Think of it this way: when you manually visit a website, read information, and copy it into a spreadsheet, that's web scraping, but you're doing it by hand. A web scraper does exactly the same thing, but automatically and at scale. Instead of spending hours copying data manually, a scraper can collect thousands of data points in just minutes. Here's what makes it different from regular browsing. When you visit a website, your browser displays a nicely formatted page with images, buttons, and text. But underneath all of that is raw HTML code, which is the structure that holds everything together. A web scraper takes that code, organizes into a format called the DOM, which is a structured representation of all the elements on the page, and pulls out only the information you need. Furthermore, any publicly visible information on the website can be potentially scraped. Now, let's walk through how web scraping actually works. The process breaks down into 5 clear steps. Step 1 is making the HTTP request. The scraper sends a request to the website server, just as your browser does when you type in the URL and hit enter. The server then responds and sends back the HTML code of this page. Step 2 is parsing the HTML. Once the scraper receives the raw HTML, it needs to understand the code's structure. HTML is essentially text organized with tags, things like headers, paragraphs, links, and divs. The scraper reads through the structure to locate where different pieces of information live on the page. Step 3 is extracting the data. Using selectors, which are like precise instructions for finding specific elements, the scraper identifies and pulls out only the data you need. These selectors can target fields such as product names, prices, descriptions, or any other fields you're looking for. Instead of grabbing everything on the page, the scraper focuses on precisely what matters to your project. Step 4 is handling pagination and multiple pages. Most real-world scraping projects involve more than a single page. If your data spans dozens or hundreds of pages, like product catalog with thousands of listings, the scraper automatically follows pagination links or navigates through the site to continuously collect data across the entire dataset. And the last step is storing the result. The extracted data is organized and saved in a format you can actually use, like CSV file, a JSON file, or a dataset. At this point, you might be wondering, what about web crawling? People often use these terms interchangeably, but they are actually quite different. Web scraping is focused on extracting specific data from known pages. You already know which URLs you want to target, and you're pulling out particular information: prices, headlines, contracts, details, and so on. Web crawling, on the other hand, is about discovering and indexing web pages. A web crawler, like the bots that search engines use, systematically visits pages, follows every link it finds, and catalogs information. Its goal is to discover and index, not targeted extraction. Here's a simple way to think about it. Imagine a library. Web crawler is like a librarian walking through every shelf, cataloging every book, and building a complete inventory of everything in the building. Web scraping is like walking directly to the business section and extracting the specific information you need from a specific book. In practice, crawling often comes before scraping. You discover the page first, then scrape them. But most web scraping projects already know exactly which URLs to target, so the crawling phase is either minimal or skipped entirely. Now, let's look at how businesses actually use web scraping in the real world. One of the most common applications is price monitoring. Retailers and e-commerce businesses scrape competitor websites to track prices in real time. This allows them to adjust their own prices dynamically and stay competitive. Some companies have reported significant reductions in customer acquisition costs and increase in revenue by simply gaining access to real-time pricing intelligence. Another major use case is lead generation and sales intelligence. Companies scrape business directories and industry websites to gather contact information for potential customers. This helps sales teams build targeted prospect lists and improve conversion rates. In finance, traders and investment firms scrape financial websites, news sources, earning reports, and regulatory filings for market data. This intelligence feeds into trading algorithms, enabling faster, more informed investment decisions. Real estate is another industry where scraping creates tremendous value. Firms scrape property listing websites to identify market trends, discovering emerging neighborhoods, or spot investment opportunities before competitors do. Web scraping is also widely used for brand monitoring and review analysis. Companies track mentions of their brand across the web, monitor customer sentiment, and analyze reviews to understand what people are saying about their products or services. And in recruitment, HR teams scrape job boards and career websites to understand hiring trends, track what competitors are recruiting for, and automate parts of candidate sourcing process. These examples show that web scraping delivers measurable business value across all industries. However, with great power comes great responsibility. There's an important side to consider before beginning: legality and ethics. Many people ask, is web scraping legal? The short answer is yes, when done correctly. But there are certain ethical standards you need to meet. Whether your scraping activity is legal depends on three key factors: what you scrape, how you scrape it, and what you do with the data. Let's start with what you scrape. Extracting publicly accessible data is generally acceptable as long as it does not involve personal information protected by regulations like GDPR. Downloading copyrighted content could also violate applicable laws. Next is how you scrape. Responsible scraping means respecting the website's robot.txt file, which tells bots which parts of the site they're allowed to access. It also means following the site's terms of service, rate limiting your requests to avoid overloading their servers, and not bypassing login authentication to access restricted content. Finally, there's what you do with the data. Using scraped data for legitimate business purposes, like market research or competitive analysis, is very different from republishing copyrighted content, violating intellectual property rights, or misusing personal data. The consequence for irresponsibly scraping can be severe. Under regulations such as GDPR, violation involving personal data can result in fines up to 20 million euros or 40% of global annual revenue. Copyright violations can also carry significant penalties. For ethical scraping, focus on two things: transparency and efficiency. And as a general rule, it's always wise to consult with legal counsel before starting any scraping project. So, how do you actually get started with web scraping? There are several approaches, and the right choice depends on your technical skills, the scale of your project, and the complexity of your target website. For developers who want complete control, programming libraries are the way to go. Beautiful Soup is a great starting point. It's beginner-friendly and works well for parsing static HTML or smaller projects. When you need more power, Scrapy is built for large-scale scraping and can handle thousands of pages with ease. And for websites that load content dynamically using JavaScript, tools like Selenium and Puppeteer let you control a real browser to access even the most complex pages. Here at Oxylabs, we offer solutions that integrate seamlessly with these libraries while handling the most challenging aspects of scraping for you. Our Web Scraper API handles the heavy lifting, things like proxy rotation, JS rendering, and anti-bot bypassing, so you can focus on data itself rather than the infrastructure. It's designed for developers who need reliable, scalable data collection without having to build everything from scratch. For users who prefer the visual approach, we also offer AI Studio, a set of AI-powered apps that make web scraping simple. You describe what data you need in plain language, and AI Studio handles the rest. It takes care of crawling, extraction, and export automatically, making web scraping accessible even if you've never written a line of code. And if you want to learn more about web scraping, best practices, or explore our tools in detail, check out our blog and documentation. You'll find the links in the description down below. Have questions? Drop a comment or join our Discord community. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for more content on web scraping and data collection. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.